Hi class, good afternoon. This is Professor Salmon. So, of course, half of you are strictly online and the other half you come to class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So this is for Thursday, February 9th. I will be posting a succession of videos to help supplement you working on your paper 2 and completing the other weekly assignments for this week. The first assignment or piece of assigned reading that I would like to go over is if you open up that week 5 tab and go into your Learn tab, scroll all the way to the bottom. There is additional required reading. It is called What is Rhetoric? Now, ideally, before you read the rhetoric document, if you have not, please go back, scroll up a little bit and view the video first. There is a YouTube video provided by TED Ed, which is TED Talk, called How to Use Rhetoric to Get What You Want. We viewed that in class on Tuesday, but if you're an online student or you did not make class on Tuesday, please watch that video and then proceed to the What is Rhetoric article. Okay. So I am going to read it, and I'll point out some of the larger pieces of the text that we should focus in on. Rhetoric is the study of effective speaking and writing, and the art of persuasion, and many other things. In its long and vigorous history, rhetoric has enjoyed many definitions, accommodated different differing purposes, and varied widely in what it included. And yet, for most of its history, it has maintained its fundamental character as a discipline for training students. 1, to perceive how language is at work orally and in writing. 2, to become proficient in applying the resources of language in their own speaking and writing. So at its basis, we're trying to practice writing correctly. And we do that through the practice of rhetoric. Rhetoric can be applied orally, like if you're watching a presidential debate, a State of the Union address. Purposely, the speeches have been outlined in a manner where how much ethos do we have, how much pathos do we have, and how much logos do we have. There's an art to persuasion, a structure to writing as applied to a structure to giving a public speech. Discerning how language is working in others or one's own writing and speaking, one must artificially divide form and content, what is being said and how this is said. So again, taking in that consideration of who your audience is, gauging how much knowledge they already know, will also fall into play when you're outlining these papers or your speeches. You have to gauge your audience. You have to work to win them over, work to persuade them. While the gray areas of how to do that well continue, there's definitely ways that do not work. So because rhetoric examines so attentively to how of language, the methods and means of communication, it has sometimes been discounted as something only concerned with style or appearances, and not with the quality or content of communication. So basically right there, some things have been overlooked because we're so focused on the how of the language, the method that you're applying. When you need to incorporate all of it, you want to look at style, you want to look at appearance, you want to look at quality and content. If your quality is no good, then why should we even study style at this point? I like to think that when I get good at the content and the quality that's there, then I can play around with structure and style. you buckle down, learn the fundamentals, and then you can apply some of the fancier stuff. So at the core of creating an argument, make sure all the pieces are there, and then you can start to weave in your refutes in the higher paragraphs and things like that. So again, just understanding that style, appearance, as far as rhetoric, it goes beyond that. It's more about the quality and the content of the communication, whether it's written or something or orally like a speech. For many, such as Plato, rhetoric deals with the superficial at best, the deceptive at worst. Mere rhetoric, when one might better attend to matters of substance, truth, or reason as attempted in dialectic or philosophy or religion. Rhetoric has sometimes lived down to its critics, but as set forth from antiquity. Rhetoric was a comprehensive art just as much concerned with what one could say as how one might say it. Indeed, a basic premise for rhetoric is the indivisibility of means from meaning. How one says something conveys meaning as much as what one says. And again, your delivery. So you can deliver verbally in a speech, you can deliver on paper. It's the structure of it and how you win that audience over. You want to make your writing be effective in proving whatever point you've set out to do. Rhetoric studies the effectiveness of language comprehensively, including its emotional impact, pathos, as much as its propositional content, logos, to see how language and thought worked together. However, it has first been necessary to artificially divide the content from the form. You'll notice that some content takes on more of a different form, or to be more effective with certain content, you need a slightly different form. There's many styles of writing. At the basis is persuasive, informative, and entertaining. So if you ever heard the PIE acronym, PIE, persuade, inform, and entertain. At the basis, you want to start with that. Are you just persuading? Are you only informing? A lot of your informative writing is going to channel the tone of objective, so it won't be subjective. On the other hand, persuasive can be absolutely subjective, very opinionated based. But remember, to be effective, you still need some of that logic in there. We need to question the reasoning, the setup. If you just come out with the solution, sometimes that's not as effective as if you had set up set up an introduction that really lays out the problem for your reader. Your reader is going to be more likely to hang in there and read the entire argument if you start properly. This is one of the reasons why we stress attention grabbers even. That attention grabber needs to level the playing field for your reader or engage them in a sense to cause self-reflection. So that's why we sometimes provide an anecdote, a small story to establish relevance, or we start off with a really shocking fact about the content that we're about to discuss. Why? It sets the reader up for what's to come in the paper. So I invite you, and I highly recommend that you go over your weekly readings prior to doing your week 5 assignment. Now, I'm going to upload the lectures in pieces, so this will be part 1.